I never really believed in ghosts. I always thought people who did were looking for something to explain things that just didn't make sense. That's how I was raised. Logical, grounded. My mom used to say, if you can't touch it, it isn't real. But that changed in 2012. That year, my roommate Eric and I rented a house just outside of Pittsburgh. It was cheap, too cheap really, and we just figured the landlord was desperate to fill it. The house itself wasn't old, maybe built in the 70s, but it had this weird layout. You'd walk down the main hall, and at the very end, on the left, there was this narrow room with no windows. The walls were concrete, painted white, and the floor was unfinished. The landlord said it used to be a storage room and that he never bothered to convert it. We called it the bunker. The first few weeks there were fine, but little things started happening that I didn't notice right away. Eric would complain that his phone alarm would go off at random times during the night. 2:13, 3:09, 3:32. He thought it was a glitch, but when he showed me, the alarm wasn't even set. Then there was this smell. You know that sickly sweet stench you get when a mouse dies behind a wall? It was like that, but worse, like rot mixed with burned plastic. It would come and go, mostly at night, and we could never find where it was coming from. One night, Eric was at his girlfriend's place, and I was home alone watching TV. I started hearing this scraping sound from the hallway, like nails dragging on the wall. I paused the show, waited. It stopped. I turned the volume back up, and there it was again. A slow shk, shk, getting closer. I stood up and called out, thinking maybe Eric had come home early. No response. I grabbed my phone flashlight and started walking down the hall, and I swear to God, as soon as I passed that windowless room at the end, something scraped from the inside of the door. 3 long, heavy drags. I froze. You know that kind of fear where your whole body locks up, but your heartbeat feels like a drum in your ears? That's exactly what it was. I backed up slowly, and the second I did, the door handle rattled, hard, like someone was trying to yank it open. That was enough for me. I went outside and waited in my car for Eric to get home. When he did, we both searched the whole room. Empty. No rats, no animals, nothing. Just concrete walls and a bare bulb hanging from the ceiling. After that, things started escalating. We'd wake up to doors wide open, even though we both locked them. The TV would switch itself on, always to static. Sometimes, if you walked down that hallway, the air felt thick, like pushing through water, and you'd hear breathing. Eric finally snapped one night. He woke me up around 3 a.m., pale as a corpse, saying he saw something standing in that room. I followed him down the hall, half asleep and annoyed, and when we got there, the light in the bunker was already on. It shouldn't have been. There was no switch for it inside the house. It was wired to a pull chain. We stood in the doorway, and I could see something. Not clearly, not enough to describe. Just a darker shape against the shadows, facing the corner. My brain tried to make sense of it. Maybe it's a coat, maybe it's the light playing tricks. But then it moved, slowly, like it was turning toward us. Eric bolted. I didn't even think. I just followed. We grabbed our stuff, jumped in his car, and drove to his girlfriend's apartment without a word. We didn't go back until morning. When we did, everything looked normal. The door to the bunker was open, but that same smell, rotting, burnt plastic, was stronger than ever. Eric wanted to call a priest. I laughed at first, but something in me said, do it anyway. We found one through his girlfriend's church. The priest came the next day. Older guy with kind eyes, but this weird seriousness about him. He walked through the house quietly, saying prayers under his breath. When he got to the bunker, he stopped cold, didn't go in. He just said, whatever was done in this room should never have been done. You should not stay here. That was all. We moved out a week later. A few months after that, the house burned down. Total electrical failure, they said. No one was living there at the time. But here's what I never told anyone. 2 days before it burned, I got a voicemail from an unknown number. No words, just that scraping sound from the bunker, over and over. This happened in 2017 when I was 24. My friends and I were really into urbex, urban exploration. We'd hit up old factories, forgotten schools, anything abandoned. It wasn't about getting scared. It was about the thrill, that feeling of being somewhere you weren't supposed to be, walking through history that everyone else had left behind. That's what led us to the Hollow Hospice. It sat on the edge of town, half hidden behind a line of dead trees, the windows all blacked out from decades of grime. According to county records, it had been shut down since 1986 after a fire in the East Wing. Half of it was still intact though, and someone online had posted a map showing where the morgue used to be. We decided to go at night. Stupid, I know. It was me, my buddy Mason, and our friend Leah, who was always filming everything for her little YouTube channel. We parked about a quarter mile away and hiked through the brush with flashlights wrapped in red cellophane so the light wouldn't draw attention. The air smelled like wet dust and mildew, and the ground was soft, like walking on sponges. The main doors were chained shut, but Mason found a window around back that had already been pried open. We climbed in one at a time and found ourselves in what used to be the cafeteria. Everything was still there, the long steel counters, the warped linoleum floor, but all of it coated in this thick gray dust. We explored for maybe 20 minutes before I noticed the quiet. Like real quiet. No wind, no insects. Even our footsteps sounded like they were being absorbed by the walls. Then we found the hall leading to the old patient rooms. The air got colder there, and there was this faint metallic smell, like blood and cleaning chemicals mixed together. Leah joked that it probably just smelled like ghost sanitizer, and we all laughed, but none of us said another word after that. Each door we passed had a nameplate next to it. Most were faded, but one still had letters burned into the metal. Ward C, restricted access. Naturally, that's where Mason wanted to go. The door to Ward C was locked, but the wood frame was so rotted that he just shouldered it open. The moment it gave, I swear the air changed. Like we'd stepped into a room that wasn't part of the same building anymore. The smell hit first, heavy and chemical, but underneath that was something worse, like wet copper and decay. There were only 3 rooms inside Ward C, all empty except the last one. That room still had a hospital bed bolted to the floor. The mattress was gone, but the frame was covered in deep scratches, almost like claw marks. And on the wall, just above where a pillow would have been, there were dozens of tally marks carved into the paint. Groups of 5, all the way to maybe 50 or 60. Leah was filming everything, whispering commentary into her mic. But when she aimed her camera toward that wall, her screen started glitching, black lines rolling down the image. She tried to reset it, but it just froze completely. That's when we heard the gurney. The sound was faint at first, metal wheels rolling slowly down tile. Mason thought it was wind, but the building had no power and all the doors were shut. Then it got louder, like it was coming straight down the hallway toward us. We all froze. Leah whispered, "Is that you?" No one answered. It was close now. You could hear the squeak of the wheels, the clatter as they hit cracks in the floor, and then it stopped right outside the door. Mason, being Mason, pulled out his flashlight and swung the beam toward the hall. There was nothing, just that dead quiet again. And then, from inside the room, something scraped across the concrete behind me. I turned around so fast, I almost dropped my light. The gurney was in the room. It hadn't been there 30 seconds ago, but now it was sitting right beside the bed, rusted, dented, and covered in a dark crust that looked too much like dried blood. Leah started backing up, muttering that she wanted to go. Mason tried to make a joke, but his voice cracked halfway through. I don't even remember what he said. And then, clear as day, from somewhere underneath the gurney, a voice whispered, "You're late." We ran, didn't even look back. We climbed out the same window we came in through, sprinted to the car, and just drove until we hit the main road. None of us spoke for the whole drive home. 2 weeks later, Leah sent me a text. She said she tried to recover the footage from her camera, but all the files were corrupted except one, the last clip before the screen froze. It was only 5 seconds long. It showed the bed, the scratches, and that wall of tally marks. But right before the clip cut to static, something in the frame moved. Not fast, just enough to see a pale arm slide out from under the bed and pull itself back into the shadows. She deleted everything that night. I've never gone exploring since. I've been renting the same apartment for almost 6 years now. It's not big, just a 1-bedroom in an old converted building downtown. But it's quiet, clean, and the rent's cheap, or at least it was. Lately, I can't sleep here anymore, not after what started happening with the echo. See, it began as something small, a weird acoustic thing. When I'd drop my keys on the counter or close a cabinet, I'd hear the sound bounce back to me, a fraction of a second late, like a delayed playback. The building's old, so I figured maybe it was the pipes or weird drywall insulation. But it got worse. A few nights later, I was sitting on the couch watching TV, and during a commercial, I coughed. Then, maybe half a second later, I heard myself cough again. Same tone, same length, same everything. At first, I thought it was the TV's speakers lagging somehow. I muted it. Then I tried again. I coughed. And from the kitchen came another cough, identical. It was so perfectly timed it made my chest tighten, like hearing your own voice on a recording from another room. I tried to convince myself it was a neighbor or some bizarre echo. But when I yelled, "Hello?" into the empty apartment, what came back wasn't my voice. It was a whisper, soft, breathy, and wrong. It said, "Hello, but lower, slower." That's when I stopped sleeping. For days, I'd sit up at night with every light on, waiting for the sound. Sometimes it wouldn't happen. Other times, I'd hear faint shuffling in the kitchen or the echo of something I hadn't said yet, like I'd sigh, and then hear the same sigh 2 seconds later from the other room. I started recording it on my phone. The first few clips just sounded like static. But then one morning, I played back a video from the night before, and halfway through, there was a voice under the hiss of the fan. It said, "Stop watching me." I threw my phone across the room. When I checked the recording again an hour later, the voice was gone, like it had never been there. That's when I realized something worse. The echo wasn't repeating me anymore. It was answering. One night I said out loud, "I'm tired." From somewhere near the kitchen came, "I know." Another time, half asleep, I muttered, "I can't do this anymore." It replied, "Then let me." I moved out for a week, stayed at a friend's place across town. I didn't hear anything there. No echoes, no whispers. But when I came back to grab more clothes, my neighbor, this older lady across the hall, stopped me in the hallway. She asked, "Who's the man staying with you now?" I told her no one was. "I live alone." She frowned, then said, "Oh, well, I see him sometimes. In the window, when your lights are on at night. He just stands there." I didn't even answer. I just locked the door behind me and sat in my car for an hour, shaking. That night, I went back inside. I told myself I wasn't going to be scared of my own place. I turned off the lights and sat in silence, recording on my phone again. After maybe 10 minutes, the fridge clicked on and I heard movement, slow, dragging steps from the kitchen to the hallway. I held my breath. The steps stopped right outside the bedroom door. And then, from the dark, I heard my own voice whisper, clear as day, "It's your turn." My phone dropped out of my hand. I lunged for the light switch, but when the lamp came on, no one was there. The next morning, I packed everything I could fit in my car and left. I didn't even break my lease. I just left. But here's the thing. Now, no matter where I go, the echo followed me. If I drop something, I hear it twice. If I talk to myself, something whispers back. And every recording I make, every voice memo, ends the same way. A few seconds of silence. Then a faint whisper, my own voice saying, "You should have let me."